nothing but Star Wars. Give me the Star Wars. Don't let them end.
Bienvenidos, worldwide fans of the planet's hottest entertainment with an edge. Jaime En Fuego here for a little bit more of my namesake program. That's right, Enfuegotainment. That's right. I have been doing an ongoing here in the year of 19. That's my King reference for you for the day. Just coverage of all of the Star Wars films in timeline order as opposed to release order. And so in January, I did Phantom Menace. In February, I did a little bit of Attack of the Clones. Not a personal favorite of mine or anything like that, but you know what? The first two of the prequels are just okay. I found some enjoyment unexpectedly in the Clone Wars, although I must admit I did like the Samurai Jack stuff better. I'm going to be actually, now that we are like bridging the gap from the prequel period, I'm going to be going back and doing before next month, since I have all of these weeks of like intermittent time and stuff like that, I'm going to be doing some a little bit of coverage of the Clone Wars, like a couple seasons. There was 5 and then there was a 6th one, but actually, as we found out recently, there is a 7th one that is coming, which is very exciting for a lot of people. But yeah, long story short, we have Revenge of the Sith, and I still, as far as all of my Star Wars theatrical experiences, aside from watching all of the special editions in theaters, because that was a big thing for me, man. You know, seeing all of the additional effects, and I still hate, more so than anything else, what they changed in Jedi, because of the fact that that was my favorite. That was the one that, it's not because I was getting Princess Leia, in the slave costume. That probably had something to do with it, at least a little bit. But, I personally love the stuff on Endor. I love the Jabba's Palace stuff. And, that was the entry that just bummed me out and just pissed me off with the alterations the most. But I loved what they put to A New Hope, and I loved what they added to Empire. And so, those are my first Star Wars theatrical experiences, watching all 3 of those. And then, as the hype machine was going hardcore, we had some Phantom Menace stuff, which, I don't know. A slight improvement was the Attack of the Clones, but really the prequels came full circle and became badass in my estimation with the 3rd entry. And I'm not a prequelist, as I've said various times, but aside from the middle portion of this film, I think Revenge of the Sith is a very strong Star Wars entry. It's more enjoyable than The Last Jedi, in my opinion. It has more to chew on, even maybe, than The Force Awakens, which a lot of people hold in high regard despite being more or less a remake of sorts. So here on Enfuegotainment, we always cover the bueno, the malo, and the feo. And so I just got done rewatching this, and the bueno, damn, especially for the sheer fact that this was our first PG-13 Star Wars entry, the first to jump into that particular pantheon. I loved how violent it was. I really did. I know, that's my 6th sadistic card of sorts, but seriously, we don't get it in the initial space battle, but I love the initial space battle, and the fact that it's like right after the, alleged kidnapping of Chancellor Palpatine and stuff, and you get the reasoning for the Grievous or the cough or whatever he has going on if you watch the Samurai Jack little prequel thing which we had going on. So I actually, even though I've watched a decent amount of the Clone Wars now and I'm looking forward to reviewing those, I don't know, there's a certain charm to that particular approach and that particular animation and the simplicity of it and everything. And that was where Grievous was initially introduced, and you find out that he has this little raspiness because of the fact that, the Mace was on his ass, like right there as he was kidnapping Palpatine and like creating that whole ruse. Although, now that I think about it, I don't even think Grievous necessarily knew about it, but in any event, we start with a space battle, and it's really, really cool, and it's very visually well done, especially in contrast with some of the you know, CGI effects and stuff that we got in the couple of the previous entries. I must admit, I will have some MALO for too much CGI here later in the review, but as a whole, this is a badass space battle, and then just the way stuff goes down with Dooku. Spoilers, we have a Dooku decapitation that goes down, and it's not shown, you know, it's more so just like off-screen, like hinted at, but damn, dude, the fact that they actually wrote that into it, and then even Yoda chopped some heads off, man. It's pretty rad status in that degree. Really, the end battle and everything that goes down where we see the change. Yeah. We see Anakin embracing his darkness on this lava planet, and if I recall correctly, it's the same spot where he ends up having his, like, you know, Vader castle, or we see in one of the spin-off entries. I'm trying to remember if it's in Rogue One or whatever, but nonetheless, you see the true nastiness that he is capable of, and a lot of people talk smack about Hayden Christensen in his acting. I feel like it's where he was trying to be like sweet and convincingly like loving with, you know, Padme. That's where he just did not come off as convincing. But when he's nasty, when he had like he's got that, you know, that inner darkness, that's where I just totally believed in what he was going for. And the counterbalancing battle at the very end, because you've got Obi-Wan and Anakin battling it out on that lava planet, and then you also have back on Coruscant, you've got Yoda and Palpatine, and you know, I am so very stoked that I'm filming this review after the Episode 9 reveal, because how could we not have him returning in this final entry? Seriously, especially with the underdeveloped nature of Snoke, it's like people are so pissed off and they're like, oh, you're going back to the well, you're doing this, you're doing that, whatever. It's like, well, he hints in this third entry about the fact that, you know, Plagueis was the one who, which we all know, was his master and was his trainer, and, you know, found the means through the midichlorians to beat death and blah, 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 blah. But, and I know that novel isn't canon anymore, the James something, the guy who wrote it, who was going on to write, you know, other stuff as well. Also, I'm working my way through the Master and Apprentice, that's the one. I'm actually really digging the hell out of it, especially finding out about Dooku's apprentice before Qui-Gon, and it's really rad, actually. And it's kind of boring in the politics department, which is something that anything in the prequels era unfortunately becomes notorious for, but nonetheless, look forward to a review of Star Wars Master and Apprentice coming very soon here. But there's so much more bueno than MALO and Feo in this particular film than I even remembered. I might even say I love this film, because the first like 30-40 minutes and then the last like 30-40 minutes are so good. I just love the allure and the temptation aspect, and the actor who plays Palpatine, damn dude, I just cannot express my excitement for his return in whatever capacity we're gonna see him as Palpatine. I'm a big fan of, you know, Dark Empire and Empire's End and all of that stuff in the comic books where he was resurrected and able to beat death, you know, although in that case it was even before the prequels came out, and so it makes sense, you know, for him to be the ultimate evil in all three trilogies, and they're saying, you know, with the Mandalorian and everything's going to be different now. It makes sense. So, since I'm trying not to make this like a 30 or a 40 minute review, I'm going to shift into the MALO, and the MALO is obviously evident. The dialogue, at times, especially like the loving dialogue. There's one scene in particular that, upon this rewatch, and it's where, you know, Padme is talking with Anakin, and it's when he finds out she's pregnant, and he's like, oh my god, you're so beautiful. And she's like, well, I only look so beautiful because I'm in love with you. And then it's just this back and forth, and it's so bad. Some of the CGI, obviously, it's just a little too overblown. It does not look very good. It's just not as much for me. the middle half with Obi-Wan doing the lizard riding as he's trying to track down on the Outer Rim. I don't know. This movie loses its way in the fact that it could have shaved 20-30 minutes runtime, been 140, 150, and been significantly superior if it didn't meander. But then again, Attack of the Clones meandered, all of these films have meandered, at least in the prequel saga, and so can't say I'm particularly that surprised about that. And I'm going to jump into the Feo. The Feo is the transition of our beloved Anakin, Annie, into the nastiness that he becomes when he, embraces the darkness, when he becomes a Sith, when he is officially Lord Vader. And ugly here, in my estimations of all of this, can always be something that is either good or bad. It's dependent upon context. And there's both some good Feo and some bad Feo. The good Feo is the fact that you really understand how horribly hardcore evil this character has gone when he goes to the Jedi Temple and he slaughters all the younglings. Yeah, or at least most of them. I think there's a few that survive. For whatever reason, we've got some Jimmy Smits in there, and then he shows up in Rogue One, which is cool. But yeah, so not all of them are destroyed and killed off and massacred, I guess is the proper terminology. But a good decent amount of them are. And that scene where the small Kim is looking up at him and he's like, "We're not going to be saved, Master Skywalker, blah blah blah," and then he's just goes right in. So that's hardcore. The Emperor's makeup, I don't think he looks as convincingly nasty, but I know it's supposed to be fresher, because you see the transition, in the Mace Windu scene where he's trying to convince Anakin to help him and save him because Mace knows what's going down, and he's zapping the lightning, same as Dooku. That's a Sith thing, obviously. And he's just aging as he's expounding that power, and yeah, it just doesn't look as good. Even once he puts the hood on and he doesn't have the full reveal going down, it just does not look as good as in Return of the Jedi. The one that obviously jumps out to everybody, and the one that made me laugh out loud in a theater when I was I was a longtime Star Wars fan since my single years, when I was in single digits, and then I go to see Revenge of the Sith, and it's 2005, written and directed by Mr. Lucas himself, and so I was 22. I laughed out loud with the "No!" Horrible. What were you thinking, man? What was seriously transpiring through your head? I mean, I know the emotion that he was intending to imply, because really, the reason he turns to the dark side, as Lucas kind of, tries to twist it and turn it, is because of the fact that he had these premonitions that, Padme was going to die when she had these children. She was going to pass in labor, which she does, obviously. And he did nothing to avert that. In fact, maybe with his dark side turn, he, helped to supplant that and make sure it transpired. The silly screaming, the glossiness of the way that the armor and everything looked, I laughed out loud in the theater. And that, I guess since I was ready for it and adjusted to it, I just disregarded it and I focused more so on the plot points this time, and so that's why I'm going a little bit above accord and regard and saying that I just might love Revenge of the Sith, but man, that just puts such a silly stigma on this film for me and epitomized the prequels for me, in the fact that it just didn't feel as adult-like as the previous films did. But, hey, what are you going to do? At the end of the day, it's too CGI heavy. We know this to be true. It's poorly scripted at times, but I honestly felt like of the three entries, this was the strongest performance-wise, and it was the strongest story-wise, and the fact that it had such a big burden to just bear on its shoulders of making everything kind of tie together and coalesce, I can't hate on it that much. I feel like Lucas did a pretty damn good job, especially in these last 20 minutes or so, aside from the screaming, raging Vader. I mean, the "I hate you" screaming on the lava planet just hits me every goddamn time, man. It makes me feel very genuinely emotional. And I mean, the loss of certain other characters, and I mean, man, Ewan McGregor is great throughout, and this is absolutely the best performance that we get out of Hayden Christensen. I'm gonna put it here on the record. I hope that we see him in a Force Ghosty whatever thing in episode 9 in December. Ha! There it is. I'm just putting my cards out. I'm like unsheathing my lightsaber. I'm gonna let it be. So, I have been Jaime En Fuego. You can find me on all social media sectors like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and obviously here on YouTube, hashtag Enfuegotainment. Like, share, subscribe this video, spread the word, but if you want additional news about stuff that I do and just, you know, reactions, impressions, so on and so forth, you have The Horror Show, which is at youtube.com/The Horror Show channel. That's where we do trailer reactions, you know, film reviews, convention coverage. We're actually going to be in Dallas for Texas Frightmare and covering everything spooktacular with Sam Raimi, Bruce Campbell, various others. It's going to be rad, status, badass. I'm very much looking forward to it. And yeah, here on Enfuegotainment, I always do everything beyond the spooktacular variety, you know? So I did the 8 nominated Best Pictures from the Oscars, and you know, the occasional trailer reaction here and there, but including, as I must mention, compared to the other trailer reaction for the 9th Star Wars film I did, yeah, I did a very initial, just raw impression of, yes, episode 9. So check that out here on Enfuegotainment, and I'm just going to leave it at that because I'm very excited to bring you more Star Wars coverage. The Master and Apprentice review is going to be coming very soon. I'm about halfway through that book, and I'm going to attempt to crush the rest of it with the quickness, because I'm also reading Carrie for Hail to Stephen King, which is a show that I do on The Horror Show here at the same time. So I guess until the real of Ka, who knows what I'm referencing. And to differentiate myself from The Horror Show, I shall say hasta luego, Cinemigos, and constant viewers here, but I'm hopeful that we get to share a little bit of film palaver sooner rather than later. Peace out.